The PS5 turned a year old in November. I've had mine since release in 2020, but I've waited a little over a month now to make this video. It is now December, and we are getting ready to wrap up the year and move into 2022. So I held my year-long experience of PS5 video until now. So we're going to be talking a little bit what I like, what I don't like, what that year's been like, what I'm looking forward to. But before we get into that, I just want to thank everyone that's come across the channel in the time that I've been making these PS5 videos. The PS5 did kind of spark the overall motivation for the channel to continue growing and expanding with anything video games, but of course still keeping the PS5 as a center point or a focus point for the channel. It is still the foundation, the sort of bedrock that sparked the snowball effect for this channel to keep producing videos for you guys, whether it's specifically towards a game or towards a feature or anything. Just know that PS5 started it all for me. It's still mind-boggling to me that any number of people would click on my video and just listen to me talk about something, whether it is me explaining something that you need to hear, or if it's just you wanting to hear something out of interest, and it's not a problem you need to figure out. That's even more mind-boggling. Just the fact that anyone wants to hear me talk about video games is awesome, and I'm really appreciative of that. And moving into the new year, I hope to reach out to more and more people, but right now I just want to thank anyone that's clicked on a video and just given me a chance. So thank you guys. Now we can talk about the PlayStation 5 and what that year's been like and what it's, what I'm looking forward to, what I like, what I don't like. If I'm a little bit biased in any part of this video, just know that obviously I'm more than thankful for the console because it is what started my content creation sort of drive, and that plays a huge role in my personal opinion and liking towards the system. But I'll try to separate that from what the average consumer or the average person might think or look for in the console, because not everyone's here to be a content creator. Not everyone's here to make content on video games or anything like that. I also wanted to throw in there that I do personally own the digital edition, so I will be making points that only apply to the digital edition, but some overall points will apply to both the disc version and the digital edition. I'm going to try my best to simplify the main points I'm trying to make so that I'm not all over the place, and so that this video is not super long, and so that you have just a general understanding of why this is a good thing or why it's a bad thing. I wanted to jump straight into the design of the console and how it looks aesthetically, but I think first I'm going to start with the price. The price is a huge deal, and obviously the PS5 is still super hard to come by. You're not just going to walk in the store and pick one up, and a lot of people are still overpaying for this console on StockX, eBay, whatever the case may be. People are overpaying for the console, and I completely disagree with people scalping and with people overpaying as well. I don't think anyone should be paying over $400 or whatever it is, US at least. I don't know what the price is in other countries or anything like that, but I'm talking about here in the US. You shouldn't be paying $700 to $1,000 or more dollars for this digital edition console, or even for the one with the disc. Either one, you shouldn't be paying over retail for this console. I will straight up say it's not worth it. And at that point, use that money for something else. Just buy a PC at that point. PS5 is not a trophy. I want to give my 2 cents in on how I feel about the whole scalping situation and how people are paying thousands of dollars for a console like this when they shouldn't be. That's my overall standpoint on people scalping and overpaying. People shouldn't be scalping. Obviously, they're going to keep doing it up until this thing is more available, and it looks like it's not going to be anytime soon, as far as we can tell. We've been in stores, or a lot of us have been to stores. You go to the electronics section, there's nothing there for you. Maybe some headsets and controllers, but no signs of a console. So anyone that's in the comments or in anyone's comments or is seeing on Twitter that, oh, you just need to try harder, you need to just do more to get one, that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't have to. In a normal world, in a perfect world, in the world we used to live in, when things, were out for a while, you would go to the store and you could buy one. It should be that simple. You shouldn't be paying extra, hundreds of dollars just to get a hold of something that you should be able to go into the store and get. That's no one's fault, but that's the reality of the situation. And anyone saying otherwise, that it's easy to get or that someone's not trying hard enough, is just being ignorant, and they just had an easier time getting a hold of one of these things compared to maybe someone else that is having a much harder time and doesn't know what resources to use to get one, or is going to the store thinking they're going to get one. They're just misinformed. And I think that's important to address, because it's not easy, and people that are saying it is are just, like I said, being ignorant. People scalping are taking advantage of knowing how to get these things or having resources to get these things and overselling them for an amount of money that none of us should be paying. I don't care who you are. I personally got mine at GameStop. I pre-ordered. I did what I had to do to get one, and I paid $400. I still wouldn't have gotten one if I didn't get it for that price, because I don't think it's worth more than what they're selling it for. I don't think you should be paying $800 for this system. And there's people doing it, and then when they get it, they think it's not worth it, because obviously it is not an $800 system, and it's important that you know the value of what you have. $400, great price for what the console does and what it is. And I've compared it to computers all the time, and I'll say this right now: if you are looking for a PS5, you can't find one anywhere, and you're going on StockX thinking of spending $800 on a system, don't. Just wait until the PS5 becomes available and you can get it for its intended price, because overpaying is dumb. It's not worth it, and you're going to be disappointed because you're paying more than what the console's worth and what it's capable of doing. You're paying PC prices for a system, a PlayStation or an Xbox, whatever the case may be. Always told people, if you're going to spend that money, just buy something better. Buy something that can play your games in that intended price range. Like, if you're paying that much, you're going to pay for something that does more than what your PlayStation is capable of doing, which is what I would do. That's my stance on the PlayStation 5 shortage situation, reselling, scalping. Now, moving on into the actual design of the console, which is what I wanted to start the video with. But I just wanted to address how hard it is to get these consoles, and if you have one, you're lucky, and you should be appreciative that you were able to get one, especially if you got one for retail price, because I know even if you have one and you claim for it to be easy, it was not easy, and it's not. The overall situation is no electronic device right now is easy to come by. Washer machines, cars, gaming consoles, anything that requires these certain parts that we are not able to have because of the global condition that we're in is affecting how people can acquire these things, and is limiting how many people are actually able to get these things. Alright, so the design of the console. Initially, people were having mixed responses to how the design or how the console looked, and I personally have always liked it, especially the digital edition. I've said this in other videos, but the disc version just doesn't look like it's even supposed to be that way. It just looks like they added that after. Like, they had this design in mind, and they're like, oh, like the disk drive has to be here for us to use this design. I just feel like the digital edition is sleeker. It looks cleaner. It's, I don't know, it's nice. Just look at it compared to the disc version. No one can tell me that this sleek design of a console and alien looking design they went for looks better with a side hump on the side of it. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me that anyone can say that, but that is just my opinion. I know everyone has their own opinion, and if that's the one that they went for, then they feel like that's the nicer one. If I would have had the disc one and that was the only one I could have got, I would still probably think that the digital edition looks nicer, and I've heard other people agree with that same statement. The digital edition to me is the definitive design for the console. I feel like when the guy was drawing it up, he like drew these sleek panels on the side of it, and then the guy tapped his shoulder and was like, hey man, where's the disc drive? And he's like, wait, it doesn't fit, we got to put it next to it. And that's probably not the case at all, but that's how I see it, and I'm allowed to have that opinion. If you agree with me, you agree with me, and if you don't, you don't. But I think the digital edition looks sick. And as far as customization goes, it does come in a default white color, and if you don't know, well, the console does allow you to remove the side panels. The black part in the middle will stay black, but if you've seen, it's been a year, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen people swap out the plates on the sides and put other plates on there. A lot of people have made it black, so they have a full blacked out console, and now Sony has even released their trailer of colored panels that you can put on the PS5, and you can make it pink, purple, blue. These are just their first colors that they're dropping, but I'm sure in the future they will also provide us with many more colors. And if people want to paint on a panel and put it on there, I'm sure that people will end up doing that as well. I personally, if I knew an artist that can draw something for me, I'll have them make a cool design on a blank panel. It's a blank canvas. I'll pop the panel off here, draw on this, put it back on. You can design your console however you want. So as far as customization goes, I think it's pretty cool that you can even do that at all. It's one of the first consoles, not the first console, but like that you can actually change over and over again. You can keep customizing the same console, and it's not really affecting the console itself because you're removing these panels and putting them back on. But yeah, customization is pretty cool, and I'm sure we'll just keep seeing more and more of that. Let's talk about the size real quick. It is a pretty big console, the biggest console I've ever seen, and if you have it next to your Xbox Series S like I do, then you will see a huge size difference there, and I will put maybe some video over this so you guys can see that. If you haven't seen in my past videos, they're right next to each other, and the PS5 just towers over everything. It's as tall as my monitors. Like, it's really tall. I personally think the design is cool. I like that they went out there and did something different. It's not just a square. Even there's nothing wrong with the square or the box, whatever, however you want to see it. A lot of people say the PS4 had the best PlayStation design of all time. I mean, it was just a simple design, and I'm kind of happy they went a little bit overboard and went crazy with it and made something absolutely unique and new, that even if people don't like it, at least they tried something new and different, and I think that's innovation, and I'm all for innovation and trying new things, so I'm happy with it. If we're talking aesthetically, I would have always went for the digital edition ever since they showed it. That's the one I wanted, and if I had the option for either or, I would still pick it. I wouldn't change my choice of console, especially since I don't use disc at all, and we'll be talking about that in just a second here. But yeah, digital edition looks stunning. I like how it looks. It's cool. Let's move on to something else. I guess while we're on the topic of hardware, we can talk about the controller. There is a lot of, praise for this controller. I agree with all of it. I think it's an awesome controller. The design obviously matches the PlayStation, and we've also had an announcement of some more colors being added. When a lot of us first got our PlayStation and turned on Astro's Playroom for the first time and used this in our hands, we were absolutely mind blown. I mean, personally, I was sitting there like a little kid just smiling away playing this game. The controller really does add a whole new layer of immersion to your experience while you're playing a game, and that's exactly what I felt as I was going through Astro's Playroom. You can feel the sand, the glass, you got adaptive triggers, you got a bunch of cool features that live within the controller in itself. And even though not every game makes use of this, when the games do use it correctly and use it to its, higher potential, I won't say max, because I still feel like people will find new ways and cool ways to use this controller as time goes on. It's only been a year, and with the year that we've had, I think we've had some pretty cool and interesting experiences with this controller. To name a few, Astro's Playroom is probably the best exhibit of that controller being used in all its glory. Games like Kena Bridge of Spirits, the bow in the game just feels amazing. Any game with a bow really feels amazing. I mean, some of them do it better than others, but Kena Bridge of Spirits really did a cool job. Returnal makes cool use of it. There's a fire select feature, I guess, and if you go halfway on the trigger, it shoots one way, and if you go full down on the trigger past that middle point, then the gun shoots completely differently, and I think that's really cool. I think Ratchet & Clank had a feature like that, where if you hold it halfway, it does one thing, and when you hold it all the way, it does a whole different thing. Haptic feedback and adaptive triggers are definitely a huge game changer for the PS5, and one of the reasons I think the console is worth it. The DualSense is definitely a major upgrade from the DualShock 4, even though I personally think this controller fits better in my hand. The DualSense is a bit bigger, and sometimes it does get uncomfortable for me to hold it, but that's just a personal thing. If you like the bigger controllers, I know a lot of people have complained about this in the past. They needed a bigger controller and they made it bigger, so those people are happy. But now the people with smaller hands are left with, we just have to deal with it, kind of like how they had to deal with it when the PS4 controller was too small for them. The controller is very cool. I like how they brought back that clear D-pad. It's not focusing, but there you go. They have the clear D-pad buttons, kind of like the PSP, the clear buttons over here as well. I really like that they did that. Something that might worry people are the analog sticks and stick drift. I personally haven't had that issue. An issue that I did have, though, was I think one of my controllers might have dropped before, and all of the technology in the adaptive triggers and all that could be in danger or could get damaged, from a simple drop, from a fall from a low place. It doesn't necessarily have to drop very hard, but I feel like there is, some sensitive components in there that could be exposed to being damaged, and that kind of sucks. You just got to be really careful with this. I don't know when mine got ruined or if it just happened over time. I've also seen people just have it worn down or become very sensitive just from using it over time, and the adaptive triggers act kind of funny on those looser R2 triggers. It's just something to keep in mind. You shouldn't be absolutely worried about it. We know stick drift happens. We know the buttons can get messed up if you drop them or use them harshly or mistreat them in any way. But it's a controller. At the end of the day, this isn't the make or break device. It's probably a better situation to have to replace a controller than to replace the entire console, especially in a time like right now where it's going to be easier to find a controller than finding the console itself, because you can just walk into a store and have this replaced. And I guess if you have, some type of insurance or something on your controller, then you're all set. But if you just buy a controller, it gets messed up, it's something that happens. It's regular at this point. It's happened to me. I'm not upset about it. I've replaced my faulty controller and I move on with my life. I know that people get upset about stick drift and all this stuff. It's a thing that is an ongoing issue, and it will probably continue to happen. It's just something that we have to put up with. It's not going to take away from the general experience of these controllers. The controller is rechargeable. I actually never notice when my controllers die. I have 2 controllers and I'm constantly swapping out of them. I just use one until that one tells me I have low battery. I've played for hours. I couldn't even tell you a number of, it only, it stays on for 2 hours and then it's just done. You can't play until it's charged, or you have to use it plugged in. I have not had that situation, just because I personally am constantly swapping my controllers since I have 2 of them. It's a good thing to do, I guess. I can suggest that if you have 2 controllers, you just have one on the charger. When the one that you're using tells you, hey, you have low battery, you just switch it out, you move on to the next one. Obviously, constantly using adaptive triggers and haptic feedback or any vibrations in any games constantly is probably going to kill your controller faster than if you had it off or weakened. There is a setting to make the effects of the adaptive triggers, less powerful. I don't know if that actually helps with battery life, but I'm going to assume it does, because when it's off, it definitely lives longer than when you have that on and are constantly using it. No shade to Xbox. I've expressed myself on how I feel about using AA batteries in controllers. I just don't think it should be a thing. So I'm happy that once again we have a rechargeable controller. I don't care if it dies in 2 hours. I'd rather put it on a charger and be able to use it while it's charging and just wait for it to be charged, rather than having to use AA batteries that you have to keep buying. People have told me you can just buy a battery pack or do whatever with this, with the Xbox controller. Just let us charge our controllers. All of those things are great, and in the year that I've had the system, I've not had any issues other than that controller issue where the R2 got soggy. I'm gonna say soggy because it just got really flimsy and sensitive. The actuation point was just me barely tapping the trigger, and that was an issue. But other than that, no controller issues, no battery issues or anything like that. And I do use the system often, multiple times a week, if not every day or every other day. So I am constantly using it. It's not like it's just sitting there and not receiving any sort of stress test or heavy usage,